What if I told you that some of the problems you're dealing with today were already being discussed more than 2,500 years ago? Getting frustrated with people, comparing yourself to others, wanting success before you're ready, losing your temper, and wondering why your life isn't going the way you imagined. Confucius lived in ancient China during a time of political chaos and social disorder. But instead of searching for some magical formula for a perfect life, he focused on something much more practical. How should a person live? And honestly, some of his answers still hit harder than most modern self-help advice. So here are 5 lessons from Confucius that can completely change how you see your life. First, stop trying to change everyone around you. Think about the last time someone annoyed you. Maybe it was a coworker who never listened, a friend who kept canceling plans, a family member who always had something negative to say. And what did you do? You probably spent hours thinking about how they should behave differently. That's the trap. We spend so much energy trying to fix people who aren't asking to be fixed. Confucius emphasized the importance of first correcting yourself. Imagine 2 people arguing. One person spends the entire conversation thinking, they're the problem. The other asks, what can I control about my own behavior? The second person has something the first person doesn't. Control. You can't control someone's personality. You can't control their opinion of you. You can't control whether they understand you. But you can control how you respond. And sometimes, that's enough to change the entire situation. Second, don't be embarrassed about being a beginner. Here's something almost everyone experiences. You want to learn something new. Maybe it's going to the gym, learning an instrument, starting a business, making videos. Whatever it is, you begin with absolutely no idea what you're doing. And then you see someone who's been doing it for 5 years. Suddenly you feel behind, so you quit. Confucius understood that learning is a lifelong process. You are not supposed to be good at something just because you started doing it yesterday. Imagine walking into a gym for the first time and being embarrassed that you can't lift what someone else can. That's like being embarrassed that you're not fluent in a language you started learning this morning. Being a beginner isn't failure. It's the starting point. And if you can become comfortable being bad at something for a while, you'll eventually become good at it. Third, your habits become your character. Most people think their life changes through huge decisions. I'll completely change my life tomorrow. But tomorrow comes, and you wake up exactly the same person. Real change usually happens much more quietly. You wake up 10 minutes earlier. You read a few pages. You keep one promise to yourself. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. You apologize when you're wrong. One small decision doesn't look important, but repeat it for a year? Now you've become a different person. Confucius placed enormous importance on repeated practice and self-cultivation. Your character isn't something you simply have. It's something you build. Every day, you're practicing being someone. The question is, who are you practicing becoming? Fourth, choose your friends carefully. There's an old experience almost everyone eventually has. You spend time around someone for months or years, and slowly, you start becoming like them. You pick up their expressions, their habits, their attitudes, even the way they think. Sometimes you don't notice it until you're alone and realize, wait, when did I start acting like this? The people around you influence you more than you think. If everyone around you complains, complaining starts to feel normal. If everyone around you is ambitious, ambition starts to feel normal. If everyone around you takes responsibility, responsibility becomes normal. This doesn't mean you need to abandon everyone who is different from you. It means you should pay attention to what your environment is teaching you. Because your friends don't just influence what you do, they influence what you believe is normal. Fifth, don't rush your life. This might be the hardest lesson. We live in a world where everything feels late. At 18, you think you should have a plan. At 21, you think you should be successful. At 25, you start wondering if you've already fallen behind. Then you open social media and find someone your age who supposedly has everything figured out. Now you're panicking. But life isn't a race with one finish line. Confucius believed deeply in learning, patience, and gradual improvement. A person doesn't become wise because they suddenly discover one perfect answer. They become wise because they keep learning from experience. Think about an ordinary mistake you made years ago. At the time, it probably felt huge. Maybe you embarrassed yourself. Maybe you chose the wrong person. Maybe you wasted money. Maybe you walked away from an opportunity. But today, that same mistake might be one of the reasons you make better decisions. That's the strange thing about life. Sometimes the lesson doesn't look like a lesson while you're living through it. You only recognize it later. So if your life feels slower than everyone else's right now, don't panic. You're not necessarily behind. You're becoming. And maybe that's the biggest lesson Confucius can give us. You don't need to completely reinvent yourself overnight. You need to become a little wiser, a little kinder, a little more disciplined, and a little more patient every day. Because a better life isn't usually built through one massive decision. It's built through thousands of small ones that nobody notices. And years from now, you may look back at the person you are today and realize that the ordinary choices you made every day were quietly building the person you became.